Next item, which is COC report from Mr. Roush.
Good evening. Is this thing on?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on, but do you want anybody to hear it? Pick it up, hold it several inches from your mouth. Or you can leave it there.
Try it this way. So thanks again for having me. I will start off by echoing Superintendent Lindo's thoughts about the study session that we had, the joint study session between the COC and the school board. I, too, and my members on my committee also echo that it was very positive, very upbeat, and very helpful. Good exchange of ideas. The primary purpose was to talk about transitions, particularly Roy's. We did meet afterwards as a COC. We had our regular COC meeting right after the study session and had an opportunity to digest all the great information that we had. And what I thought I'd do is share with you tonight some of the highlights from that COC meeting that we had right after the study session. The first was, or is, soliciting and retaining student members to the COC. Now, I know you're spoken for, but we are properly admiring and very jealous of the fact that you have two, but we're going to find our two, rest assured. I have met with Corey Weschler and have started to lay the groundwork, I think, for a good onboarding process for the students. As you know, it's a complicated set of issues that we deal with on the COC, from project management to community engagement to financial expenditures and bond measures and all of that kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that the students who do join our committee and have full voting rights are well informed, and it's the information is presented to them in ways that are easy to understand. Sometimes we have to spend a little bit of time ourselves getting to that place, and also thinking of ways for them to participate in a very meaningful way, not just to sit there and sort of nod their heads, but to provide us with information and also for us to give them good information that helps them be a part of the committee. So my next step is to meet with Corey and two members of her team to get even more detailed on the planning right now. We have no timetable yet, although we anticipate hopefully having them join us early in 2014. So hopefully that meeting between me and Corey and her people will happen next week, and I'll have something to report back to the COC in our January meeting. We also thought that it was very, very important for us to continue on with our liaison and working group work that we do, particularly around finances. Charlie Schumann, as you know, meets with Mark Bonet to go over the financials in a very thorough and detailed way, and then Charlie reports out to us at COC meetings what he's seeing and some of the highlights from Mark's presentation. I thought it would be good if I joined the next meeting in January to get sort of dipped into that fascinating world of financial analysis, and hopefully Mitch Fine will be able to join us as well. Mitch, as you know, has a very keen mind, very observant, and asks some really, really good questions. So it'd be great to have him join us as well. I'm meeting with Dave Gallagher this week, I think on Wednesday, Dave, and it's an informal meeting just between me and him, and I think maybe Roy will be there and Deborah too. But just to kind of go over what the game plan looks like for 2014 going forward. I'm particularly interested in his perspective on reporting and how he plans to provide us with information, and the COC also had some ideas about formats, particularly graphical ones that have lots of pictures that are clear and accurate, that really describe where we are in terms of project milestones, where we are in terms of expenditures. And I thought once we had something well structured, that it might be good for me to come back at one of these meetings and share with you the reports that we look at, the process that we go through to keep ourselves fully informed of the project. So you sort of have window into the processes that we use. So hopefully you'll find that helpful. So that's about it. Those were kind of the three things that I wanted to touch on. Before we transition into questions that you might have, this being Roy Miller's last city schools meeting, right, Roy? Yes. I did want to say that Roy has been a really indispensable part of our COC. You know, we've been through a lot over the last several years, and Roy's always been there. He has been, you know, obviously a great source of information. We've always come away impressed with his professional and technical competence, but also, as you know, and I, speaking to the choir, there's a kind of a thoughtfulness and a patience and a graciousness to Roy that's very rare. It's a very fine thing. And I know, Dave, you're looking forward to coming into this project. We will miss Roy tremendously, and not just because of what he brings to the project in terms of all of his competence and all of his knowledge, but also in terms of his very fine character. So I just wanted to say that publicly, and Roy, thank you so very much for everything that you've done for us.
Thank you for that comment. And any questions or comments from the council or board members?
I just had a quick question. If you could remind me of the open positions to the categories for COC members? I forgot.
Yeah, it's...
I'm doing some recruiting, but I need to make sure I'm doing it right.
taxpayer, or the, and parent of current student, yes. What is it, the tax, not taxpayer, but Taxpayers Association, thank you.
And parent of current student, was
Yes.
that the other one?
So it's a parent of a current student, Taxpayers Association member, and what's the third?
That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and then the two student positions.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
I'd like to thank Roy, too, for his years of service. I mean, he was totally and truly put on the hot spot on this project, and, you know, he was always unflustered. I mean, even I couldn't fluster him. But I meant, well, you didn't let on that I flustered you, but I
Never
meant,
let him see
he
you
had
sweat.
vision, he had consistency, he had messaging, he had commitment, and I truly will appreciate the time and effort that you put into this project. You did a great job, Roy. Thank you very much.
Superintendent, at some point, are we going to have a more
Yes.
formal or appropriate time to thank Roy?
There's a surprise coming.
Okay.
It's
So it's not happening, Roy,
It's
you didn't hear this.
nothing-
You didn't hear this conversation.
it's not tonight.
Yeah, okay.
There's a surprise coming.
All right. That would be fitting.
So I have to make that speech again? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You too, Tom.
Be happy to.
But what I will tell you, though, is that we had a long talk with Roy today in our cabinet meeting, and Roy has essentially requested, even though you don't know that something's coming, Roy, he has requested that any gifts, flowers, cards, anything like that, be given to the Emory Ed Fund, and we have a scholarship in his name to help support the scholarship for the students at the high school. So.
Any other comments at this point on the COC report? Any members of the public wish to comment on the COC report? Okay. Thank you. Our next item is the ECCL transition plan.
Yes. So thank you very much. The board has heard all of this, actually, and as I mentioned earlier, and as Tom mentioned, we had a study session with the COC to go over the transition. And so what I wanted to do tonight was just really give you high level what the key areas are related to the transition. As you know, as everyone has said, you know, Roy Miller, you know, for the past 10, 11 years has worn probably multiple hats. He and I sat down and we looked at, you know, where those hats rest, and really his work sort of falls into three categories. And one of the things that we have done, and we've begun to do already, was to essentially bifurcate his job responsibilities into these two roles. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit about those tonight. The first is I wanted to introduce to you and to the Emeryville community, Dave Gallagher. And Dave is a retired project manager from the Hayward Unified School District, who has many years of experience in school construction in particular. And so he is going to take that piece over for us to begin the transition. And in fact, he started that transition on December 2nd actually, with Roy. So he's getting up to speed on every aspect of the project and coordinating that. The other piece is the coordination and the relationship with the CBO and the CBO's office related to just the ECCL budgets, also the coordination with all of the consultants and outside consultants and CM firm that we have, MAC 5 right now, that's working on our project. One of the things during the course of this discussion about Roy's transition is that we decided that it would be really good, because of the sheer scope of the project, to go out and have an RFP, a request for proposals, from various CM firms so that we could take a look at the full scope of work that is associated with, with managing a project of this caliber. And so Dave is going to be working with our CBO and me to put that RFP together, and we'll be launching that in February, probably January, February timeframe. So we'll be bringing more information related to that back to you. The third part of Roy's job, or let's say the other half, if you will, of his sort of monitoring duties related to the Emeryville Center of Community Life, have to do with the community aspect of this and the community services aspect of this, and the full service community aspect of this. And Roy has held work essentially of a full service community school coordinator, as it has related to the relationship with the city, as it's related to our MOU agreements of the past, the joint occupancy agreement that we're working on right now with all of you, and community convenings and engagements related to whether it's architectural designs, whether it's library consultants, whether it's health clinic consultants, landscape architects, and different things like that. So what we're going to do now is, from the programmatic side, as you heard the information from the Children's Aid Society about the need for this position, just in terms of best practice, is rather than have the full scope of the conversation now, we thought that this unit of work warranted its own conversation and its own set of details that the construction side has had with us, and that's really what we're focused on right now since we've started abatement and demolition. And so we're going to be bringing back to you in January and in February a series of conversations related to the unit of work that is associated with the full service community school coordinator. So this group with the board will be looking at job descriptions. You all will be engaged in conversations about what a full service community school coordinator's role would be for ECCL. Is this new work? Is this work that other people are holding in either in your organization or in our organization? How is that going to essentially work? And we're going to be bringing all of that. Sabrina and I talked about that this morning, and we're going to be bringing all of that information back to you to have a much fuller, deeper conversation within the context of the JOA or outside the context of it. We'll have to decide all of that. So that's where we are. Again, we've separated sort of his 3 units into two areas. One has to do with construction, the other has to do with full-service community schools. We're going full core press with the construction piece right now. We're on a very short timeline, as you know. Part of our bond funds were from qualified school construction funds, Q-skip bonds, so we have to make sure that we get this work moving as quickly as we can, which it is. It's in motion. And then the second part, again, we will engage all of you in conversations in January and February about your desire to fill this position, how we fill this position, what the job description and the work is, whether it's a shared position or a position owned by the district or us together. Those are the things that we'll talk about. But before you ask any questions about any of that, what I'd like to do is ask Dave Gallagher to come up to the podium and introduce himself to everyone. And
But before that happens, I have to leave because I have a family childcare situation
Okay.
I need to go deal with.
So
I'm
you have
going
a
to have to
question?
excuse myself. No, I don't have a question. I'm just letting you know that Member Atkins can take me over.
Okay, great.
I think she might have a question.
Okay. So Dave, welcome. We know that you've already hit the ground running with your work. Maybe you could tell everybody a little bit about your background and the work that you've been engaged in thus far. And
Well, first of all, thank you both to the city and the school district for giving me the opportunity to come and serve. I did retire at the end of last year. I was with 3 different school districts doing this type of work, managing these types of projects, very similar to this, throughout my entire career, and retired from that at the end of 2012. I've been working since then as a part-time consultant to an architect firm, and I knew the superintendent that I worked for at Hayward. Just through word of mouth, they knew I was available. Dr. Lindo knew I was available, gave me a call, and I think it's an excellent fit. It's an excellent fit for me, and I hope it's an excellent fit for you. I have been spending the last week doing a couple things. The first thing is I've been trying to clone as much of Roy as possible. I can't clone his body, and I can't clone all of his brain, but I can clone the parts of the brain that I need to clone, so there's some continuity with this project. And so I've been in that process with Roy. Thank you for allowing me to do that, Roy. And I've also been reading just the tremendous amount of information that's available on the project. The drawings and specifications that were prepared by your architect. They did a very excellent job, and I've been able to understand a lot of it, the nuts and bolts of the project through studying those. You selected the largest and most reputable construction company in the nation, really, to build your facility, and so I've been studying their information, getting to know them. So many things that you have done, that Roy has done, and people in this room have done, I am so impressed with. I've been managing these types of projects for school districts for 30-plus years. And you're doing a lot of things here that I always wish that I would had a chance to do. So I want to build on what you have done, because my experience has been keeping projects on schedule, on budget, and really establishing and building good relationships with everybody during the process. And I've had a fair amount of success in all of that, and I hope to bring those abilities to you to continue your project's success and building on the great job that Roy and others have done up to this point. So thanks so much for allowing me to come help you out. I am retired, so I can't work full-time for the next 2 years, but I have an awful lot of time that I can contribute and certainly bridge this time period between Roy's departure and a long-term having some sort of CM firm on board. Because of the strength of the Turner Group you have and the strength of the architect firm you have, I think it would be good to tailor-make this CM role. You don't need to replicate the good things that both of those companies are already doing, but you need to fill in those gaps that are left even by those two companies. And I'll help identify those gaps and hopefully tailor-make your CM firm to what your needs are for when I'm no longer able to serve for you.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any questions of Mr. Gallagher?
I just was, first question was, what other school districts did you work for?
Worked for Mount Diablo Unified and Temecula Valley Unified in Southern California.
And tell me about the model that we have the lease back. So you feel on the strength of that and the guaranteed maximum price, that's one of the reasons that your time doesn't have to be full-time?
That's a great delivery method, the delivery model. At Hayward Unified, we built $200 million of projects, 5 new schools over a 4-year period using lease-back exclusively. Just finished that up at the end of 2012. And yes, you can be very lean and manage it if you have the right lease-back entity on board, which you do with Turner. So I'm very much a fan of the lease-back model. I think it was a wise decision you made early on to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Do you have somebody else in the audience?
Well, first off, Superintendent, I just want to thank you for finding someone who can fill the gaps, at least in part, so of what Roy's been doing. So thank you for not wasting any time in getting that process going. I did see a hand in the public, so if you have a question, come up to the mic.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. And I want to just say thank you for all the good wishes from the council and the board during my little absence. And welcome, Dave. I'm Rod Wong, and I'm a member of the COC, if I remember correctly. Your experience is impeccable, and I was wondering, have you had a chance to do a combined campus like what this ECL is trying to accomplish in your experience? And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Not to the extent.
You have to come up to the mics on television.
Yeah, just.
What'd you say, Jim?
Okay, all right. Not to the extent that you're doing it here. I'm not sure that there's many people have done everything to the extent that you're doing here, combining full K-12 with community uses. But I do have a lot of experience with joint use facilities between cities and school districts. I did that in Temecula. I also did that in Mount Diablo here in the Concord area. And so, not to the extent, but I understand the joint use and the joint occupancy and the importance of cooperating with partners.
If that's it, is there more in the transition plan you want to say at this point?
No, just, we're just going full steam ahead, and everybody's working really hard to make sure that this is as seamless as possible. Yeah.
All right, so